Hi, it's Mimsy here. Are you thinking about putting down some peel and stick tile? Well, stick around and see what happened with mine. Or are you having issues with your peel and stick tile not sticking? I'll show you what the problem is. Stick around. Okay, so I'm starting to lay the floors today. I've got the floors all cleaned and prepped. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start on this line right here because this tile is already very straight in the room, and I can see by the cuts on the wall there that it's fairly square. They're the same all the way down, and the same here. Those are all pretty square. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to work my way straight down this line. So I'll do kind of this whole area here and just work my way back this way. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick tip and show you how I'm starting this because it might be easier. So like I said, I'm going to follow this seam line all the way down the room to make sure I'm square. So to start this off, what I'm going to do, or what I've done, is I've marked this tile in half because then I can use both halves of it along this wall. So this is going to be my first piece here, and then this will go in here. So this is 4.5 inches here, so I made that 2 1/4, and I scored it with my razor knife. And I'm using a square to go ahead and cut, so that way I know I don't have to measure each time I cut this. Well, I can just use this as a template. However, I want to make sure that I'm square cutting this so that I don't cut 2 1/4 here and like 2 1/2 over here. So I'm going to use my square, put it there, and then I just scored down the tile, and then you just break it. Then you peel it off of the paper backing. Okay, I'm just going to make sure there's nothing there. I've already cleaned and prepped really well, but okay, and I'm going to line up this point of this tile and then right up against the door frame and press that baby down, and I'll stand on it too. There. Okay, and then I also have the other half to use now. So now I'm not wasting any tile. So I'm going to continue all the way down the wall, and then I'll come down this seam right here. So I'll just work back and forth and down from there. Okay, when you start your project, you definitely want to use plenty of spacers at the beginning so that your tiles are perfectly spaced, because then you can get away with not using so many as you move down your room and eventually not use any at all. So as I got to about the middle of the room, you'll notice that I had my husband bring in a bunch of weights because I started to notice that the tiles were not sticking real well. The first few boxes I laid down perfect. When I got about right here into the middle of the floor, I had a box that when I took the adhesive off, there was a lot of like little shiny parts on there, almost like the tile was wet under there. And it's not wet, obviously, it's just the adhesive, but you can kind of see in this one that there's some places on there where it almost looks wet, like sparkly almost. Well, I had a whole box like that. Of course, they were right in the middle. And that box didn't want to stick down real well. The tiles were like cupping, and so that's why I brought in all these weights to hold down the center, and when you put them down they kind of slip around a little bit. Like this one was just cupped up and that one was just cupped up. I'm hoping that I don't have to take these back up, but I'm telling you this because if you start to get tiles that are doing that and have that look on there that looks like they're sparkly or wet, and when you put them down they don't just suck to the ground, then maybe move on to a different box and come back to that box only if you don't have any left. Because like right here, this one here is kind of shifting, this one too, and it's kind of cupped. Well, I didn't recognize this until I got another box and started laying these down, and when I pulled up the paper, the adhesive part was completely flat. Look at that, completely matte, completely flat, no sparkly looking wetness on the bottom. And then when I put it on the ground, it's like they sucked to the ground. Like I put this one down like that, and it is solid on the ground. No cupping, no shifting. These things are like, it's like they're sucked to the ground. Where that last box, everything, like look at this. This is never, probably never gonna set up. I'm gonna have to replace those. So, if you get a box that doesn't look right on the bottom, that's not completely flat black, don't use it, skip it, take it back, and go on to another one. Now, I've had all these tiles in this room for weeks, so they're acclimated. Why some of them are like this, I don't know. And then this new box, they don't move at all. So now I'm gonna take those up, replace them. Ay, ay, ay. So this is a defective tile, or defective glue. See how it's all shiny and funky? And look at the paper. The glue has actually come through the paper. Something happened with the glue and it's actually coming through the paper, and you can see all those little dots all over the paper. This one is good. See, there's no little dots on the paper. And look at the actual tile. Look at how smooth and matte that is. This one is good. When you put it on the ground, it sucks right to the ground, like it's being sucked into the ground the way it's supposed to. So all those tiles over there are all defective. Look at, I didn't recognize this until I got to a batch that had good tiles, and then I realized, oh, these ones that are shifting around, they shouldn't be. I'm gonna go through and re-stick these to some paper so that in case I have to use these because I can't get any more, I'll use them with some other type of adhesive, because I had to run all over town just to get these. Okay, I just took this up off the floor. When I peeled these off, when I peeled the backing off of here, that's what they looked like. I didn't think much of it until I got to the next box, until these weren't sticking real good. They were shifting around and cupping. And then when I got to the next box, and the next box looks like this. Look at this. Totally, beautifully flat. And look at this. Don't use them if they come out like this. Trash. Take them back to the store. These stick and don't move at all. See, this is what they're doing. Why is that tile look like that? This one will never, or maybe it will eventually stick, but they shift around. I don't get it. And it's easy to see the ones that are the good ones because they don't move. You put them down and immediately they don't move. These are the ones from the good box where it was totally smooth, completely stuck to the ground, like no movement at all. And look at that. Is that ever gonna set up? I don't know. That, look at that. I should have recognized that this was not right, but I didn't, not until I got to the tiles that were right. Okay, so it's day 2 of the peel and stick tile fiasco, and I'm almost finished. I had to, after yesterday, after picking up all these weights, I had to pull up about half of the tiles that I put down in the room because they weren't sticking. When you put them down, they should stick like this, like no movement at all. They're not repositionable. They should suck to the floor, real tight to the floor. If you can just turn it and it feels like the glue is gooey, like half of the tiles I had yesterday were just gooey, that's defective. So I had to go last night to 2 different Lowe's not in my area. One of them was an hour away because they're the only ones that had tiles. The first Lowe's I went to had 3 boxes. Of the 3 boxes, only 2 of them were good. I showed the lady at the returns counter of the 2 boxes. I pulled out the tiles of the first box, and the backs of the tiles, the paper, was all speckled. Fortunately, the other 2 boxes were perfectly good. They did not have all that speckling where the glue came through the paper. So I was able to get 2 boxes at the first Lowe's, then I had to go to the other Lowe's that was an hour away and get what they had. They had a whole bunch, but again, when I checked the shelves there, a couple of the boxes I pulled out and the backs of the tiles were all speckled. And so I grabbed, just the tiles that were good. I'm almost finished. And I'll show you in real time the way I'm doing it. You see that tile is so perfect. So I put it down, get it into position, and then I take my roller and put all my body weight onto this roller until my hand is aching. And you see how that is no movement at all? There is no movement in that tile at all. That's the way it should be. Okay, so I'm finally on to the grouting. The grouting of this is exactly like grouting any other tile. The grout comes in this little bucket and it's pre-mixed. The only difference is that it's more fluffy, this grout, than sanded grout, I guess. This probably doesn't have much sand in it. That's why it's more like whipped cream. Therefore, you definitely want to get a float to push the grout into the seams. Grout just like you would any other tile, and I'm trying to really conserve it because I've only got 1 bucket because it told me that that's all I would need. Clearly, I'm going to need a 2nd bucket. Well, maybe not clearly, it's going to be pretty close, which is even more aggravating. I had a grout sponge, but when the time came, I can't find it. So, just using the towel. So here they are. After it's all said and done, I love them. I love the floors. I love the look of it. I think it looks just like real slate tile. I love the texture and the color. I need to still mop mine again because there is a little bit of grout residue on them still. Ooh, you can really see it in the film over here. Anyway, they're all done. All in all, in the end, I'm very happy with it. I love the look of it. It was a real hassle, a major hassle having to take it back up and get more and everything that went down. But in the end, I did end up having to use some E6000 to glue down a couple of the ones that just wouldn't stay. There are a couple underneath my cabinetry that are loose, but those are never going to move. So all in all, I love it.